The Chinese enterprises going overseas, I think that's an increasing trend.
Correct.
That hopefully will keep Singapore lawyers, service providers busy for the next couple of years, right? Using Singapore as the regional financial hub, business hub, to then invest outside into ASEAN.
Welcome to another episode of Business Beyond Borders. Today, we're really excited to have with us Kia Meng Loh, who is a Senior Partner and Chief Operating Officer of Dentons Rodyk. Welcome, Kia Meng, to today's episode.
Thank you, Daphne. It's a pleasure. I'm Kia Meng Loh from Dentons Rodyk. I'm a Senior Partner and a Chief Operating Officer of the firm. I head three practices, namely the regional practice, which is more of a coordinating role, the white-collar crime investigations practice, and my core practice, I suppose, is the private wealth, trust, and private client disputes practice. On the operation side, as Chief Operating Officer, I lead all the business support functions from marketing to BD to HR, finance, IT, and so on and so forth. Yes.
Very nice, very nice. And how do you see these roles kind of complementing each other?
Well, I suppose after you practice for a while, inevitably you have to go into a management role. You sort of meld the practices that I mentioned earlier is the practice of law, essentially, you are practicing. And the COO role is really about the business of law. So that's that intersection where you meld the business of law with the practice of law and to make things work.
Yeah. And maybe we can start off with the first area that you described in terms of the practice of law, which is around, private wealth management. Could you share with us a little bit more about, how do you help what's your typical philosophy in terms of helping clients resolve their disputes around, trust, estates, as well as different issues that you talked about. And a lot of your clients, given that you're working at Dentons Rodyk, have international businesses. So how do you help them to go about resolving some of the disputes that they're facing?
Yeah. So I started out as a disputes lawyer and dealt mainly with private clients, their rich people problems, as people might put it. Anything from succession disputes to sometimes, the family business get torn apart, with unhappy family members, to even matrimonial disputes from there. Over time, as the clients build the trust with myself and with our practice, they also want us to, help them build instead of resolving disputes, mainly setting up trust structures to have, segregation of their wealth, ensuring succession of not only their family wealth, but also business succession to ensure that there's continuity. And so to answer your question, Daphne, I think the key thing is we act as the key advisor to our wealthy families and clients in providing a holistic solutions for them, right? Not only when problems matter or problems come up, but also planning forward such that we try to reduce as many friction or conflict as much as possible with succession planning, estate planning, family governance, and all that. And on your second part of the question, where how cross-border work comes into play, the wealthy we know have assets all over the world, right? You could be a family emanating from Singapore, but you have assets in Europe, in London, in the US, in Australia. But how do you create a structure that best manages these assets? What are the tax issues that are involved, right? How do you create the most efficient way to have your family members help you manage these assets, run the assets, or people that you employ do it? So that's really what we see as in a globalized world, where assets are everywhere, your family members can be everywhere as well, and how do you manage them out for one location?
Correct. And in recent times, this, especially after COVID, things have gotten kind of back into place where people are very much global now. How do you see that kind of changing in the next few years?
Well, people are definitely flying all over the place. I was just in Shanghai last week with the Law Society of Singapore, visiting Shanghai and Suzhou, right? And this week, interestingly, for Dentons, I call it a mini Dentons week because last week on Monday, 60 Shanghai partners visited Singapore.
Oh, very nice.
And then this week we had partners from our New Zealand office visit, the managing partner of India office, partner from Vietnam,
Yep.
a partner from New Zealand.
Oh,
all
nice.
not for a single event,
Yeah.
but for different things that they are doing in Singapore. So to answer your question, it's people are flying all over the place now. I think a lot of activity that's coming up.
Yes.
So what I'll see in the next few years, touch wood, hoping there's no other global pandemic that's coming back again, is that there will be a lot more connectivity, a lot more cross-border matters that we will be working with our clients and with our colleagues. Which I'm sure you'll be busy as well as with all these cross-border work.
Yeah, we hope so. We hope so.
Yes.
Yeah. And personally for yourself, as you are dealing and working with these clients that you have talked about, what's your personal philosophy to working with them?
I think you need to understand their business culture, where they're coming from. Right. I think being a Singapore lawyer, we are quite blessed in the sense that we do travel a lot, a typical Singaporean. But apart from just doing the business and creating the solutions from them, if you want to create a good solution, a long-lasting solution, is to understand the business culture, really the needs of what they want, understanding the difficulties down the ground, right down to the locale, and from there build up the trust and confidence with the clients, and then provide solutions for them.
Okay. Yeah. And earlier you touched on your trip to Shanghai with the Law Society of Singapore. Is that why you have the badge on your?
Yeah. So the Law Society gave me this badge that shows between it's a China flag and a Singapore flag.
Yeah.
So we call it a mission. Kudos to the Law Society. They have been organizing mission trips for Singapore lawyers to visit other countries. I think last year they went to South Korea and Vietnam. This year the first trip was to Shanghai and Suzhou.
Okay.
We visited the Shanghai Law Society, as well as the Shanghai Singapore Chambers of Commerce, the arbitration centers. So on and so forth. About 60 lawyers from Singapore went over. There was quite a bit of exchange and networking. Nice. It was a very good trip.
Yeah. What would you say are the top 2 or 3 highlights or learnings from the trip?
One highlight that I shared when we visited one of the... China is huge, and I do go to China quite often because a lot of my business brings me to China, especially bringing some of the wealthy individuals who want to set up family office and structures here. Also, Chinese businesses are increasingly coming to Singapore. In the China Plus One strategy, where if the Chinese clients want to have a second factory outside on China, the Chinese themselves want to be the plus one.
Right.
Whether it's in Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, so on and so forth, right? So one key takeaway that I saw when I visited one large law firm in China was in Chinese they said 不出海就出局. So if you don't go overseas, you'll be out of the game.
Yes.
Right? And this came from a large law firm in China. We think that our sense of size is different when you go to China. That law firm that we visited has 16,000 lawyers in one firm throughout, just in China. So that really dwarfs our size. So that's one. Second thing is the Chinese enterprises going overseas. I think that's an increasing trend.
Correct.
That hopefully will keep Singapore lawyers, service providers busy for the next couple of years, right? Using Singapore as the regional financial hub, business hub, to then invest outside into ASEAN.
Correct.
And the trend is also to invest into Europe using Singapore as a platform, and North America. Interestingly, using Mexico as a base going into the US market.
Very interesting.
Because of trade agreements and all that. So these are the 2 takeaways that I got from this trip.
And how do you see that applying to the way, or maybe in the next few months, the things that you might do?
Straight away from last week's trip, I was quite lucky to get a couple of instructions.
Okay.
So since I came back this week, today is a Friday, right? Past 2 days, I have the Shanghai, one Shanghai client that I met in Shanghai. They do dumplings.
Okay.
And they are thinking of importing it into Singapore,
Very
setting
nice.
up a base. So they want to do 2 things, right? Set up a investment company in Singapore using the overseas direct investment method, ODI, coming here. And then they want to use Singapore as a base to, 1, invest into Singapore, 2, invest outside from Singapore to places like Europe, UK, France, and Japan as well, right? The second thing is to open up shops into Singapore.
Okay.
So I've been bringing them around, meeting banks, trying to incorporate, open up bank accounts.
Very nice.
We met with our EDP as well for who helps to promote business coming to Singapore. So that is typical of what I've been seeing quite a bit.
Okay.
The regionalization of multinationals were coming to Singapore as a base to go out. So I think that will keep me busy for
Very nice.
For a while, hopefully.
Seems like you'll be having a very prosperous year of the dragon.
I hope so.
And coming back to, the second area of legal practice that you do, which is in white collar crimes, you have also touched a little bit about how cross-border asset recovery is becoming a increasing hot topic.
Yes.
Maybe could you share a little bit more of that?
Yes. So so one of the department's practices that I head is the white collar crime and investigations practice. It is I think a increasingly busy practice, especially on the investigations part.
Okay.
With Singapore being a financial hub, I think we also see some regulatory breaches occurring on some of the people who may not know our regulations and laws that well.
Yeah.
And we help our clients navigate through those issues. Sometimes they are deliberate, ways to get around, the recent money laundering cases as well. That rocked Singapore. The investigations part of it is important.
Yeah.
And I think where the cross-border part coming in is this: there are some scams or where there are certain fraudulent cases where you may use our very robust financial system to then transfer your illicit funds outside from Singapore, and once the funds go outside, it moves very fast from one place to the other.
Yes.
Where the cross-border element coming in is then we work with our Dentons colleagues globally on asset recovery, trying to freeze the accounts as soon as we can, getting the court orders to at least preserve the onward flow of the illicit funds, and then try to recover those for our clients.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And in terms of it's dealing with white collar crime is very different from, or it's quite different from, the private wealth practice and helping them think about how to best structure their assets and trust. In that case, how do you kind of manage your time between both and switch hats?
I've got a lot of help. I think as a lawyer, we do have to code switch rather quickly.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of help. So I co-head the family office trust and estates practice with another Senior Meng Loh, senior counsel. So we co-manage, but we have a lot of help from our very able juniors to help run things. I also co-head the white collar crime investigation. So I do have a lot of help.
Okay.
Yeah. On my operations side, I have 9 heads of departments helping me to run the firm, and really that they help make me do things easy.
Okay. I'm sure you also contribute a lot in helping them grow and build a very strong team at Dentons.
Yes, I try to do the best that I can.
Okay, and then the third area of practice is being a panel arbitrator in BAIAC as well as THAC. In those areas, what have been some of the interesting observations that you have had managing arbitration cases across different jurisdictions? I think you touched a little bit earlier on the sharing, but from an arbitration point of view, any observations that you have made?
Yes. Well, international arbitration is increasingly becoming a popular method of resolving disputes, especially between cross-border parties, right? Cross-border disputes where parties are from a different country. So BAIAC is a Beihai Asia International Arbitration Center. They have cited their international arbitration center outside from China in Singapore, and I'm privileged to be appointed on their panel. Thailand Arbitration Center is burgeoning as well. I think Singapore continues to be the major dispute resolution hub for dispute resolution with SIAC. I think the trend is that the other countries are also burgeoning. I think for a Singapore lawyer, for an international arbitration practitioner, we have to be open, right? And although we see Singapore as the best venue and the best seat to cite an arbitration dispute, there could be needs of the clients that may be looking beyond Singapore. And I think we want to be flexible and global in outlook as well, to see what's out there and to assist the clients resolve their disputes in whichever country they deem most appropriate for their needs. I should also touch on mediation as well, international mediation. So I think Singapore is now, we have the Singapore Convention. I think we last counted 11 countries has ratified the convention. I sit as a specialist mediator with the Singapore International Mediation Center as well. One interesting case that I got last year was I was appointed to be a mediator in Taiwan, Taipei. To fly into Taipei to conduct a mediation pertaining to a US party and a Taiwan party on a reinsurance matter. You can see that, with Singapore Inc. doing very well in promoting Singapore as a international hub of everything, from dispute resolution to finance to wealth management. We, being Singaporeans, are benefiting from this. And I suppose the outlook for us would be to be as open as what the government wants us to do as well, and to capture the opportunities that are presented to us.
Correct.
Yes.
And how do you see kind of mediation playing out in the next couple of years, contrasting that a little bit to arbitration?
I think here in Asia, mediation is going to be increasingly important, right? Arbitration, whilst popular, can be comparatively expensive as well, and sometimes long drawn. For mediation, the Asian way is always try to seek consensus. And to try to resolve matters through negotiations, through a bit of give and take. I think that really delves out well into the culture of the Asian context. I'm very proud that we have the Singapore Convention, right? And I do see that international mediation will continue to grow between the parties here, as we have a lot of MNCs coming to Singapore to set up their regional HQs. Their contracts will inevitably state, SIAC being the mode of arbitration. I also hope to see that they will weave in, maybe mediation in a up kind of way, so that we try to mediate the dispute, and only if mediation doesn't succeed, then we go back to arbitration or litigation.
Yeah. And how will you advise clients to think about considering mediation as a possible first point of dispute resolution?
I think it's a lot of education. The SIMC has been doing a lot of roadshows around the world, as well as Singapore Mediation Centre, right? To try to promote. It's a lot of education. And what you're doing here is also educating, right, to the audience out there, in promoting what they may not know or may not know as well. And with that continuous education, hopefully it brings up to the top of mind, where legal counsels draft their agreements, where lawyers draft their corporate lawyers draft their agreements, they will consider mediation as one of the dispute resolution methods.
Very nice. And talking about educating the audience out there, I wanted to go back to one of the practice areas that you do, which is around wealth management, wealth planning. Around that area, what are some of the current unique challenges or opportunities that you start to see family offices that are operating across multiple jurisdictions facing in today's world?
I would say two key challenges. One challenge is really understanding the country and the locale and the developments, not only in the economy, the business landscape, but also the legal landscapes in the country where they invest in. So that requires, I suppose, a lot of ground knowledge from there. The good thing is, with doing a bit of self-promotion here for Dentons, is that with our 200 over locations around 80 over countries, we do have my colleagues right down to the ground, be it an African country or Latin America, that family offices can be investing in, to be able to find somebody who's local there and explain to us what are the pitfalls or what some of the things that they need to look into. So that's one challenge, and hopefully one solution that we can offer to our clients. The second thing is, of course, the understanding of the culture, and the language as well. When you invest in these other countries, that certain things may get lost in translation, and what you think that is what you meant when you put things down on paper may not be the same thing when you translate it or incorporate it into another language from the counterparty. So I think these are the two challenges, and really the important thing is communicating, effective communications and understanding, and having people from your counterparty countries to understand each other, and creating holistic solutions.
Yes. You also touched on international clients increasingly looking to set up shop here in Singapore, and of course our Singapore government is very welcoming to that. From a legal perspective, or from your own perspective and experiences, what are some of the key considerations that you advise international clients looking to set up their second headquarters or their base here, and and in the context of especially investment, immigration, as well as family governance, what are some of your advice that you have for them thinking about this issue?
I would say not rush into it.
Okay.
Understand Singapore first. We have been doing a very great job of promoting Singapore as a regional hub of everything. I always tell clients, don't jump into the bandwagon because your friends are doing it.
Okay.
Right? Or your fellow businesses are doing it. Understand it and see whether it fits your business model. Right? In cross-border, when you set up a business in Singapore, there are a lot of incentives that the government gives. Singapore side has the most number that I can recall free trade agreements. I think over 80 free trade agreements, double tax treaties with a lot of countries. So one area that they want to look at is, as they establish a foothold into Singapore to invest overseas, to really look at the tax element as well, cross-border tax in that tax structuring. We have a very strong tax department that assists our clients with that. Because if you don't do that planning ahead of time, a lot of the businesses that you do, a lot of the revenue you take can be whittled down because of maybe inefficient tax planning from the start.
And earlier you also touched on Dentons having a global network of lawyers, and one of the key things I saw in your LinkedIn post talking about how Dentons is deeply local and uniquely global.
Yes.
Maybe now you can put on the CEO hat that you're wearing and share a little bit more about the culture at Dentons and how does that come through?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to sell koyok. She will translate what koyok means, right, to our international audience. One thing that we call ourselves is it's really a one firm policy, right? It is not only an aspiration, but it's something that we are living and breathing and doing every day. We are a Swiss variant, how we are organized as a global firm. So under Swiss law, all Dentons member firms are seen as one big firm.
Okay.
Locally, under the Swiss variant laws, locally we are also a deeply Singapore law firm. Right? In fact, we are the oldest law firm in Singapore, starting in 1861, and so we are 163 years old this year. What we do, unlike maybe other global law firms, is that instead of going out to start an office, in other countries, we combine with local law firms. So Singapore is a local law firm. Our Malaysian counterpart is a Malaysian local law firm. Our US law firm is a US local law firm. Our Tanzania law firm is a local Tanzanian law firm. And why we combine instead of just sending our lawyers out to that country and opening up office is that we believe that the local element, the deeply local element, is important to give that value to the clients, because only when you have lived there, you have trained there, and you practice there, will you know the intricacies of the business and legal landscapes, and that gives us a advantage to be able to better advise our clients onto all their legal and business needs in relation to that. We don't call ourselves a network because we see ourselves as one firm. So we call our colleagues in Indonesia, my Indonesian colleagues, my Indonesian office. We just opened the Philippines office in February, just before Chinese New Year. Thank you. We were there, and now we call our Philippines office our Philippines colleagues. Right? And they are local Philippines law firm that combine with Dentons as well. So the key thing is we are a global firm. From Dentons Rodyk, we are a global firm. We are part of a global firm, but we are also very deeply local with Singaporean lawyers predominantly in our firm, knowing all the Singapore business landscape, the partners that we work with, the service providers, whether you're the accountants or you're translators or you are the bankers and so on and so forth, right? So the example when I shared with you, when I went to Shanghai and this client came down this week when I brought him around, when he wants to bring his dumplings into Singapore, is to meet EDB, because then you will know, right? The officers from EDB, and say, hey, these are the things that you need to look out for. And the other agencies, when you need to import food products into Singapore, the local banks that we brought them to on the foreign direct investments that will come in. So I think that really is the value add that we as modern lawyers can provide for our clients, and which may not be able to be achieved if I'm not a Singaporean lawyer,
Yes.
having grown up here and having that deep network of partners and the business associates.
Correct. Could you share with us an example of how being deeply local has helped your client achieve success in some of the a successful outcome in some of the issues that they are working on with in Singapore?
Yeah, I think that increases the chances of being deeply local and having that network that I shared earlier, increases the chances of success.
Yeah.
Because they come in, they get integrated, foreign businesses get integrated quickly through our Singapore lawyers, right? And then our network becomes their network.
Okay.
Right? And then that increases their success. I think that also reduces the risk of having failure as well, because then they don't have to spend a lot of time to navigate and by trial and error go through, make mistakes and learn from there, right? So I think that is important. We being a more than a century-year-old law firm can boast that we have had clients who have been with us for a century-old clients, who have been with us since the 1800s, 1900s, and have grown along with us. Of course, I was not the one serving them back then 100 years ago, and I won't be serving them in the next 50 years, But it is an institution where being a deeply local law firm has helped enterprises who have a long-standing history with us, and we grow with them. The personalities may change. But understanding the business from an institutional level continues, and that relationship grows, and we really value that.
Yeah, very nice. And how does that, translate into effective law firm management across the region?
Wow, how does that translate to effective law firm? I mean, I'm still learning.
Okay.
I've been on the job for 7-8 years, but law firm management is always an evolving thing, right? Because things are evolving, and I adopt the mantra of always learning, unlearning, relearning, and it's what we call CANI, CANI, continuous and never-ending improvement. So you always try to improve, looking out there, being curious, learning things, and evolving, because I think in the ever-changing world, we can't afford to remain static. Right, the latest thing that's going around in the legal circles is generative AI.
Yes.
How does generative AI transform the way that we practice? Right, the way we deliver legal services. I think it is at an incept, but it is moving very fast.
Yes.
How that translates to law firm management is that when we look at the business support functions, when we look at the different practices that we have, how these changes, including generative AI, will change the way that we manage the firm, we manage our practices, how we deliver that service to our clients.
Correct.
So, well, the key thing is change, and how we can be adaptable to it. Yes.
And what's your personal view to generative AI, and how are you thinking about potentially incorporating it, if any, in the firm?
We have an innovation team in our firm, and very talented individuals who are at the forefront of it. I can share with you that I'm really a bit of a tech dinosaur. I try to play around with it, some new things that we are learning on how to use that. My own personal take is that we have to be open to change, right? We have to be curious, open. And I'm learning how to use it, because I know that in my lifetime it will be with us. Generative AI. And I need to know how to live with it, use it, exploit it, and meld it into the practice, instead of seeing it as the enemy. That with generative AI, my clients don't need me anymore, and I fight it. So my philosophy is that I would like to embrace that change instead of fighting it or rejecting it.
Yes. And how do you advise the younger lawyers in your firm? Do you also encourage them to embrace?
Yes. we do encourage the young lawyers. In fact, they are the ones who can take generative AI use like a fish to water, right? I think the younger you are, the more adaptable and the faster you learn things. We do encourage our younger ones to use generative AI, but also to educate them on some of the pitfalls that can come up, right? Or you need to check as well.
Yes,
you see the cases where lawyers in England cite cases that are non-existent out from generative AI, submit it to the courts and get chided by the judges, right? So We don't want that to happen, right? And then it's a matter of education. Quite apart from the younger lawyers, I think that we do have a wide range of lawyers and staff members that are there. My key concern is that how do we then bridge the gap between the older lawyers and the younger lawyers, right? How do we bridge that gap? And my concern is also about our business support staff members, right? On how this will change the way they work to give support to the lawyers.
Yeah. And speaking of younger lawyers, maybe we can wrap up today's interview. Any advice you have for young legal professionals who are thinking about exploring more of a cross-border international career? What advice would you have for them thinking about building a global career in law?
Well, one advice would be to really be curious and embrace internationalization. As a Singapore lawyer, we have a small market. Inevitably, we will be involved in businesses that have a cross-border element, right? And we need to know not only Singapore very well, but our clients' businesses very well, so that we can be their strategic partners when they venture outside from Singapore. In terms of dispute resolution as well, a lot of the disputes that we handle have a cross-border element. So we need to widen our perspective and not be very narrow and looking at things only from one angle. So if the phrase to really look at it is really go out, internationalize.
Yeah. And I think you have demonstrated a lot of that, going for mission trips. And then I remember meeting you at the International Bar Association event last year as well.
In Paris.
And learning from different lawyers and also learning from different countries. So thanks so much, Kia Meng, for joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm very inspired by, the way you think about effective law firm management, and also in terms of how your philosophy in working with different clients across different practice areas. And I wish you all the best in continuing to build Dentons Rodyk and continue to push it to greater heights in the near future.
Thank you, Daphne. Yeah, you are doing a great job at Blue NT as well, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Keep it up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Business Beyond Borders. If you have any feedback or thoughts, do write into us at support@bluent.com. Click to follow to tune into the next episode. See you again soon.